Josh Neighbors joins us from the Big 12 Watch. He's with us on 365 Sports on Fridays just after 4 o'clock. Josh, what is your take on Baylor trying to juggle what they're doing with Sawyer Robertson, with what they're doing with R.J. Martinez, and then all of a sudden now a visit from Malik Murphy and DeQuan Finn's on campus today?
Yeah, thanks for having me on, guys, as always. Well, the one thing we know about this business is it's a talent acquisition business, right? You can never have too much talent on your team. And I think look at the NFL right now. Look at the amount of backup quarterbacks that are currently playing in the NFL. Like, if you can have depth at the most important position, and arguably in pro and college sports, the quarterback spot, that's good. I think obviously for Baylor, the big thing is it's nice to have options, and they have to find the right option. Jake Spavital has to find the correct option. But Murphy, I think the one thing they didn't do a whole lot this year, and I believe that was by design, was run him a lot. We've heard about how athletic and he can scoot a little bit, but I think because he's the backup, obviously, and they don't have a ton of confidence yet in Arch, which once again, he's 18 and 19, right? So I think they wanted to make sure they protected the quarterback there. So that's kind of the element that I'm wondering about. We didn't really get to see because obviously as a passer, he's not quite where you'd like him to be, but he hasn't had a lot of reps in games. So I like that. DeQuan Finn, fantastic. Has been a fantastic player at Toledo. That would be a guy I think would come and obviously make a pretty considerable impact. And then Robertson, I guess you all would be better, on this. And obviously I've watched him play, but I guess the mileage of Baylor fans is at different places. I'm a big believer that guys get better as they get older. I think it just happens in college. Will Howard being the prime example. I thought he was terrible for a while. And then I'm like, oh, you know what? He got old. He got good. The game slowed down. And that happens for guys. I thought Hunter Deckers might have the same thing happen to him this year. Obviously, he was not, didn't play, but I think that could happen for a guy like Sawyer Robertson. So despite the struggles, there's precedent for a player like that to improve. So obviously they won't get all these guys. If they did, miraculous, but if you can keep 2 or 3, you're in pretty good shape.
Josh, just to continue on our Oklahoma State bit here, they have not, of all the portal quarterbacks taking visits, Oklahoma State would be one that I would think might be more involved in that, and they haven't really made any noise there yet. Does that surprise you? And, they're running to the end of where the dead period is going to start here.
Yeah, I don't know if this is a confidence in Alan Bowman getting another year because I've heard about that, and I don't know how somebody's got to walk me through that because that one, he has been there since I was in college. So he has been, and I graduated from college 4 years ago yesterday, and Alan Bowman and I, spent a couple years, I believe, in college at the same time. So that is, yeah, he's been around for a while. I do not know how he has eligibility left, but yeah, this is Mike Gundy's management of the quarterback room has been honestly, I know Bowman's been fine. It's been horrific. It has been nothing short of horrific. Guys, Spencer Sanders sat on the bench at Ole Miss this year, did not play behind Jackson Dart. And from everything that I was told, from people in the know, Robert Allen over there at Oklahoma State, he said, hey, Spencer had an interest in coming back. And Mike Gundy into bowl practice said, no, we've moved on. Well, clearly they hadn't because they played 3 separate guys to start off the year. So they did not actually have a definite answer. And the guy they ended up rolling with was not on the roster during bowl practice, obviously, last year. So I am, maybe they have a plan. Sure. Garrett Rangel might be the guy. I don't know. But, man, with how well that team can coach and the fact they've got Ollie Gordon coming back next year, they need to figure out something solid at quarterback. And look, Alan Bowman was not terrible, but you can do better than that. We know Oklahoma State can do better than that. And I think at times this year it was their offense kind of was what it was. They were not built to play from behind. They were very reliant on one guy and blocking well, and also a couple pretty good wide receivers. So I am surprised that they have not been more active in terms of being linked to guys.
Josh, Texas Tech's going to get Big 12 bowl season started off this weekend, and they got Micah Hudson locked down now ahead of National Signing Day. Really now heading into year 3 with some steam with Joey McGuire. But it's a matter of, are you going to finish 7-6? You're going to finish 6-7, and 6-7 would be, I think, a disappointment. But just what are your thoughts on what you've seen from Texas Tech and kind of what they've got going on moving forward in terms of the new Big 12 and their place in that landscape?
Yeah, the expectations were unrealistic this year. And the other thing, though, I think people have to understand is like this is still positive momentum. I looked, recently at when they've had back-to-back winning seasons since Mike Leach left. They've never actually had a same coach have back-to-back winning seasons. When they've done it, it's been separate coaches. So having that continuity, just building positivity is good. And, I think that's a big point I like to make about how winning is not always linear. Like Texas actually did the straight line. That really is not how it works. Chris Kleiman had an up year than a down year, but like he's built that thing into a solid, solid thing there at K-State. Lance Leipold, like they're not going to win 8-9 games every single year, but if they win 6 next year, even if that's less than this year, it's 3 straight bowl seasons. That's awesome for a school like a Kansas. So back-to-back bowl seasons with the recruiting that they're having, and also staff continuity is big too. I think the one thing I look at is that they need to make sure they keep Aaron Morton healthy. And honestly, they need to keep any quarterback healthy, right? This is the second year in a row that we've seen them have to go play 3 quarterbacks. And guys, they played 3 quarterbacks like pretty early into the season. I forget which game Jake Strong actually had to come in and play, but they played all 3 guys last year too: Donovan Smith, Baron Morton, and Tyler Shuck. So I thought Kitley did a good job adjusting the rushing attack to being primarily backs, guys like Taj Brooks is coming back, which is good, and taking less off the quarterbacks plate. And now also we know too, Baron Morton's their guy moving forward. I know they're losing some receivers and stuff in the portal and whatnot, but they can get a win tomorrow. It's another, and Jade Knott's out for Cal, so that's going to be a pretty big boost for them. Another winning season, just start stacking them. And you lose Texas and Oklahoma, it's better opportunities. And so stacking winning seasons to get to a place like where K-State is, when you can then elevate, I think is what Texas Tech should want to do.
Josh, Craig brought this up earlier today on the show. Other than schools who have won national titles, not regularly, but they've won a national title, let's just say over the last 60 years or so, which takes us back in the 60s. Which school in college football in today's America, today's rules, NIL, transfer portal, everything, who has never won a national title might be the one that does? And I know that it's a big, huge net to throw over. And I'll give you one of the schools he mentioned was Oregon. Who might else be a part of that list that has not won a national title?
Yeah, it gets strange too, because we're going back to a point where like they voted on titles, right? So it's kind of the weird claimed, unclaimed, the AP, but all that kind of stuff. But man, it's a really good question. It gets to kind of the heart of all the expansion and whatnot, is like what schools are actually in position to do it. Right. I would love to say a Big 12 school is, but the big problem is now that a Big 12 school is going to have to win at least 3 games to win a championship. And TCU won 1 last year and got dog walked in the second one. Right. And I mean, I'm
not laughing at TCU, but you're right.
I am.
Yeah.
They got dog walked. Yeah.
Like that's the challenge, right? Is that, and look, we saw Utah, right? Utah went to back-to-back Rose Bowls, and I know Cam Rising gets hurt in the second one, but Ohio State had like the skeleton crew, and their skeleton crew is pretty good. But like that was skeleton crew for Ohio State in that game where they beat Utah. And I know Utah had injuries too, but like that is, they weren't even able to win those games. And so that is the big challenge, is stacking wins together. And I'm trying to think about ACC programs that could do it. I mean, North Carolina like feels like they're threatening, but they don't actually have the roster to do it. And I'm trying to think, I mean, the SEC, is there, hey, look, I think Ole Miss is in position to have they're spending some serious cash. I mean, guys, they are active in that portal. That defense, which needs to be better, they're getting a lot of guys. I don't know how serious it'll be in the end, but they are making a push for next year. They could be a team that I could see. I don't believe at least that they have one. Yeah, I mean, I like those are kind of the ones that I think you're looking at as a school like an Ole Miss. Maybe Penn State, but Penn State has not gotten over that hump.
But they've won one.
They won one, right? Yeah, they won one. So right, yeah. So I mean, who are we actually like thinking could do it? Oregon's obviously a good shout.
One of the other schools Craig brought up, and it might have been just from us discussing them, was Missouri.
Well, David, I'm a Missouri alum. Don't give me hope. Don't put that out.
Yeah, but you know what, Josh? Like, if you're looking at realistically, I mean, they're in the SEC. They've got what they've got going on right now. I mean, they're going to be built up. I mean, compared to Big 12 schools, ACC schools, and the 2 PAC schools that are remaining, they have I think a better shot than those schools probably do at this point.
The one big advantage they have, and I don't think this gets mentioned enough, I work in Arkansas, and these folks here believe that they should be better than Missouri. Missouri's got two major American cities on either side of the state, 2 hours away from Columbia. And the one problem, especially Barry Odom's era, when I was there, and Gary Pinkel did a pretty good job, but Eli Drinkowitz is keeping these kids home. He's doing it, obviously. The funding is there to help Luther Burden staying there and being there. It's a mixture of getting those guys in, keeping top talent like that in. The Nwari kid, the kid they've got, top 5 kid again this year, and they were in on that one kid that ends up going to Texas. Like, that is the big difference. And yeah, the schedule has to work out, but they have another pretty favorable schedule next year. And guys, this is a team in Missouri. They had the ball down 6 at Georgia this year. Like, the LSU loss happened as Jaden Daniels is amazing. I think he's awesome. I hope he's the top 10 quarterback. They just got beat by a better player. It's totally fine. But like, yeah, man, that's probably a playoff team in the 12-team playoff. And after their body of work this year, like, Missouri was, I can't think of a time except for the Kentucky game, which they ended up winning by a lot, where they were not a massive, they were in the game or, not down multiple scores. Like, yeah, that's a place that could do it if they keep putting money into the program. I'm trying to think of other programs that are kind of like that, right? They're kind of in that zone, if you will, where it's like, if they have the right coach, right situation, can they do it all? Maybe Michigan. Does Michigan State have one? I don't know. I don't think they do.
Michigan State,
they do. Yeah,
they lost. They had a tie in 1966 with Notre Dame, and Notre Dame was given the national title. And I don't know, but Michigan State's listed in 65. It's Michigan State in 65, 66, and a couple of other years. Yeah. Yeah.
So a school like that, maybe. I mean, it's a hard thing to think, especially with the way the sport's changing. It's just going to benefit the Blue Bloods even more.
They won it outright in 52.
Yeah, they've won titles. Like, they're not on that list, but yeah, it's a nice thought. And I've got a list in front of me. I figure we'll save that for a segment though, because all due respect to Josh, but I mean, Missouri is on that list. Obviously, as you know, I think Oregon's on that list. I will say, as far as a Big 12 team that's won the most games, I'll at least throw this out there for fodder. That's won the most games, but has not won one. And it's right near the top of the entire list is West Virginia. They've won a bunch of games in the history of college football, but have not been able to crack through. But Ole Miss, I think, is another one that you threw out. I think Ole Miss is definitely one of those teams that could be right for being at the top of that list as well.
Yeah, and how about Lane pretending last year like they didn't have any NIL money?
Yeah, that's always strange to me. Like, they got Spencer Sanders to sit in their bench for the year. Like, what are we talking about with money and whatnot? But I think their defense is going to decide it, right? I mean, we saw in that LSU game, like, that is not a championship team. They cannot win a championship with that kind of a defense, with the way it was. And I mean, they just no-showed that Bama game. Like, that was not a great Bama performance, and Bama wasn't quite Bama yet, and they just no-showed it. So, it's almost like I kind of wonder, like, the one thing Sark has, think about old Saban assistants. Sark's a really good big game coach. Lane is not. I don't think about a lot of big Lane Kiffin victories that he's racked up during his time at Ole Miss. So that's kind of the push coming to shove. I mean, but they have to get in those situations first.
Josh Neighbors again with us, part of 365 Sports on this Friday afternoon. Josh, were you okay with the Heisman Trophy? Was it, if you would have had a vote, I'm not sure, maybe you do, but did you like the Jaden Daniels pick?
As somebody who had a Jaden Daniels Heisman ticket, I did. I did enjoy that as a. So I actually was pretty critical of him coming into the year. The one thing that really improved, guys, was the vertical passing. He is the most accurate vertical passer in college football this year. And also, I don't like, he plays a ton of heart. I mean, you talk about, like, the stuff people, I mean, it's flashy too, but that guy, somebody needs to teach him how to slide. I mean, he got railroaded a bunch this season. It would pop up in the Missouri game, and he was playing with an injured rib. And I mean, he was so much fun to watch. And that's kind of what I want out of my Heisman Trophy winner too. Like the electricity of Lamar Jackson, like just the unbelievable numbers and the way Burrow played. And look, I know they were 9-3, but he got injured in the Bama game. He wasn't great in the Florida State game, sure, whatever, but that's the first game of the season. And I don't really feel like that was necessarily his fault. They lost that game. And so I don't think winning has to be part of this. Like, the fact that J.J. McCarthy got a top 10 Heisman vote is a disgrace. Like, that, he threw one touchdown in the last 5 games this season. I mean, this award is for individual excellence. This is not because Michigan's 12-0. That my biggest problem with the Heisman is the people who vote. Now, they usually end up getting it right. They get it right this year. but like McCarthy in top 10 is just complete joke.
Well, that means that somebody voted because you only get 3 players. And I'm fortunate to have a vote, and I've mentioned that before. You only
David,
get 3.
was it you?
No.
Do we have a problem? Okay, good.
No. But seriously, that means that somebody on that ballot, all of the other names, and there's really about 4 to 6 guys that really you would think have a pretty legitimate chance to win that, even if that many, that they left off, maybe all 3 of the top guys, whether it's Penix or possibly Daniels or Bo Nix or Marvin Harrison Jr. And there were like 40 different players who got a vote. That seemed like a little extreme to me too.
Yeah, it's like I think the realistic candidates were this. It was Jaden Daniels, Bo Nix you could put up there. Penix really dipped. He was. It looked like he was banged up for part of the season, but like they had some really close calls with some bad teams where they didn't play too well. Marvin Harrison, sure, but Malik Neighbors should be getting votes too. I mean, I know that his team was not as didn't win as many games, but Malik Neighbors' numbers were better in a lot of categories than Marvin Harrison Jr.'s were. I know Marvin was most of their offense. That's kind of his way. Schrader, I'd be fine if you wanted to give Cody Schrader a vote because hey, leading rusher in the toughest conference in the country, that should mean something. Ollie, obviously, I don't think you can count the losses against him because obviously he didn't really get going and get the carries till later on, but all more deserving. I mean, here's the thing. In JJ McCarthy's, one of his biggest games, the Penn State game, they scored and they just didn't throw the ball the rest of the game. Like, you know what? We're going to park the bus. Like, we're not going to try to get away from these guys. We're not going to put the ball in danger at all. We're going to park the bus and run the ball. And he's a good player. I see all these mock drafts though with him like top 10. I'm like, what is happening? Like, I just cannot. You cannot justify him as a top 10. I think we should be reviewing people's Heisman ballots and making sure that they're paying attention to the sport because that's not paying attention if he's top 3.
Josh, good stuff, man. Thank you very much. We could go on forever, which we love to do.
One quick thing I want to ask.
Right.
I want to ask one thing. Paul, are you happy about your boy Rick Scott taking a stand for the Florida State Seminoles?
That was
Paul loves politicians.
Here's the deal. I have no love lost for the U.S. Senate in its current status. But like, how does Bill Hancock come out looking slimier than a senator in a letter? Like that's where the college football playoff committee has to look and be like, man.
Just ignore him.
Yeah.
Why would you just ignore him?
Yeah, why would you? Again, there's also a dumb thing. Why do you write back to him so that he can now tweet it out and put you on blast? Like,
what was the comment he said? I know you have a lot on your plate, so thank you for having time to write the college football playoff committee.
No.
Yeah, it's like, doesn't the government need to be funded again? Yeah. Like, what a waste of time. I mean, what a waste of time.
Oh, dear God. Yeah. Thanks, Josh. Good stuff.
All right, guys. See y'all.
Josh Neighbors with us on Fridays in the 4 o'clock hour on 365 Sports.
Yeah, a lot of people